Hi, I'm back. So I want to talk to you about the colonizer lie. This lie is especially frustrating and absurd, really. So let's just start off with what a colonizer is. A colonizer is a person who comes from a foreign land, from their own homeland, to someone else's homeland and takes over. They take over, they usually spread their religion, usually by force. Sometimes they enslave the people, sometimes they kill the people. They oftentimes take resources from the land and send them back home to their homeland, things like that. That's what colonizers do. Um, Probably you know lots of examples of colonizers. Many European powers have been colonizers throughout the history of the world. The British, of course, colonized North America. The Spanish and the Portuguese colonized South America. The French and the Dutch colonized parts of Africa. Those are examples. Those are all European colonizer examples. Of course, the Europeans are not the only ones who have colonized. So let's talk about the land that is today Israel and who colonized it and when, and who's actually from there and who's not. So if we take aside, putting aside Torah, putting aside the Bible as a record of fact, and just putting the Bible in the land of myths, regardless of whether it is or isn't, let's start with recorded history and what we know about the land of Israel and who was living there. And at the very least, we know that from the year 1000 BC, the Jewish people were living in Israel. King David's empire, his kingdom, was established around 1000 BCE. And from that time until today, we have had a continuous presence in that land. So, it's again, it sounds almost silly because this lie has been told so many times that at this point you have academics who state it as if it's fact that there are the Jews colonized Israel, when in fact it's our indigenous homeland. It's our indigenous homeland for over 3,000 years. And it's a land that absolutely has been colonized. It was colonized by the Babylonians. It was colonized by the Romans. It was colonized by the Arabs. All sorts of different groups have tried to take over this land. More recently, the Turks. The Turks took over this land and they had control of this land for, I don't remember, maybe almost 500 years. And then following the Turks, the Ottoman Empire, they lost control of the land after World War I. And then the British came in. So like more of a modern day kind of colonization that we're more familiar with. The British came in 1919 and they ruled over the land, not just the land that is today Israel, but also the land that is Israel and other land in that region. They ruled over it until after World War II, when there was really an intense decolonization process that took place across the world to give indigenous communities self-determination in their indigenous homelands. And Israel was one of the first nations established through the United Nations in acknowledgement and recognition of the deep historic tie and the consistent living on the land that the Jewish people have with the land of Israel. So in 1948, finally, the state of Israel was established. So it was a reestablishment of our state. We had had states before under the kings. And then after we were expelled from the land at certain points or lost power over the land, we again established different short periods of independent rule. But really, it wasn't until 1948, when the United Nations helped us to establish the state of Israel, that we finally gained autonomy in our ancestral and indigenous homeland, meaning both we have ancestors who have lived there for generation after generation after generation after generation. And on top of that, we are the people from that land. One of the clues is that this land is Judea. It's the land of Judea and Samaria and Israel. So today the country is called Israel, but you also have the land of Judea, which is oftentimes very much mislabeled the West Bank. Why is the name called Judea? It's because it was the land of the Jews. That is why it was called Judea. So there you go. That's a short little brief description of why the idea that we colonize the land is such an inversion of truth that it's deeply, deeply offensive. I hope you learned something. My name is Rona Kaufman. I'm a professor. I'm American. I'm Israeli. And I'm hopeful that I'm, informative. Thanks.